Today we're going to learn how to different ways to add a card in EntraPass and getting a card list. First thing, very important, to make sure we have communication established with the controller, because if there is no communication, the card won't be downloaded to the panel. Second is to add a card via the user card menu. Third, from the desktop events. Fourth, from the batch load operation. And fifth, that's for importing a CSV. Since there's already a video made for that, we're not going to go through this. And the sixth thing is going to be how to get a user list in user card print. So without further delay, if we go into the server workstation, so first thing we need to verify is if we have communication with the controller or not. Best way to find out is to go on the operation site. On the operation site, the communication status, it's saying gateway not connected. So that's why there's no communication. The gateway application is not running. So if we add a card in the system now, it won't be downloaded to the panel. So now we're going to go to user card. And for the purpose of this demonstration, we're using an IO prox card. So it's very important to look on the card. It's labeled XSF parentheses 018 Delta colon 44278. The 8 Delta 44278, that's the actual card number in 26-bit. If we wanted to use a 32-bit, so the card number will be 018 Delta as the site code, and the card number will remain the same, 44278. So next thing, we need to add the card. So we'll click on new. By default, the card is going to label as new user. So we're going to assign the proper name to it. So it's going to be John Doe. And we have to hit enter. If we don't hit enter, the the card number fields won't be available. So once we hit enter, the card numbers become available. And then from that, we're going to enter the card number, which is 8 Delta 44278. And then the next thing we can do is to go under the information tab. So there's 10 card information fields. Those can be changed. Those are only labels. So for example, we're going to change the card information 4. It's going to be labeled as license plate. So now we see the change now. So the next thing, we're going to go to the access level. On the access level, by default, once you create a new card, there is no access level assigned to the card. The operator must select the specific one to assign to the card. For the test purposes, we're going to select the always valid. So always valid is created once a site is defined in the system. So the always valid gives you access to that door 24/7. So now the access level is defined. So now what we can do, another thing is the card type. Card type, it's used to sort through the card database. So by default, there's different card type that is created in the system. But for this one, we're going to select as security. So this card is going to be for the information as contractor. So this person is working for Kentech Security. So now we're going to save that card. So now once the card is saved, so the next thing, we're going to swipe the card on the controller. Swiping the card on the controller doesn't give me access to the door, and there's no events that displays on the screen. Reason why? Because the system is not communicating with the controller. So now if we go again on the operation status, it says gateway not connected. So now we need to start the gateway. We go on the start, all programs, EntraPass corporate, gateway, and then click on the application. So now the gateway is actually starting now. So once the gateway is started, so now we can actually see a list of events that is going through the system. And now as we can see, the connection changed to IP device communication, okay? So which means we have communication with the controller at the moment. And all the events that we saw, it's start workstation server. So that's workstation server connection, that's the gateway started. And then after that, the server reload all the information to the gateway. And also, important message, fail soft mode on was on, and then after that it went off. So which means at this point the controller is communicating with the system. The events that we see here, access denied, card not loaded in the controller, it's because once we swipe the card, it wasn't communicating with the system. So that's why we're getting the events, access denied, card not loaded in the controller. It was, the controller saw the events, but it was stored in the database. So that's why it says card not loaded. And also the plus sign, so that's been the event happened while the controller was running on standalone mode which means while fail-soft mode was on. So now if you swipe a card again on the controller while communication is established, so now we got an access granted. So now we can actually go through the door. So now we're going to move on to the second part of the scenario. It's to add a card from the desktop events. So now we're going to swipe a card from on the controller. So we get an access denied card unknown. And then make sure to validate the card number that you see on the screen match the card number that is stamped on the card. So once this is validated, we're going to do a right click on that, select edit card. And then from that, this is a new card we're entering in the system. This one is going to be a visitor. So now that's the card number, and then from that, under card information, we're going to select visitor, and then from that we're going to put the company name of the visitor. So this one is from Bulldog Security. And the access level that we're going to assign to this card, we're going to go on the drop down list. So there's already an access level that is called visitor. So we're going to see how the visitor is defined. So now we select the access level, and then from that we're going to do an edit. And then as we can see, the visitor have access to door 1, and then the schedule is labeled visitor also. So we're going to see what's defined under the visitor schedule. So we're going to do a right click again on the visitor. So it's start time is from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m., which is 1600 hours. All the time must be entered in military time in the Kentech system. So they have access from 8 to 4, Monday through Wednesday. So now I'm going to make some modification. I'm going to give him access to the different doors. And then the access level is saved, and also I'm saving the card. So once the card is saved, so now if I swipe the card again on the controller, now I get access granted. So now the visitor is valid now. So now the next thing that we're going to do, it's to how to use a batch load operation in the Kentech. So now if we go under user and then card, so now on the toolbar, we're going to look for the icon of the reader. If you put your cursor on it, it says batch load card. We're going to click on that, and then from that it says select which door. So we're going to select door number 1, and then we can say save on new card, which is checked. So now we're going to swipe the first card. Swiping the first card, we get an event that says access denied card unknown with the card number. Second card, access denied also with the card number. So now we're going to save these cards. So those 2 cards are saved now and stored in the database. So the only thing, those cards, they do not have any access level assigned to them. So now if we go under those in the list, so now we select the first card. So under access level, there's nothing assigned. So we're going to select contractor for that. So if we select contractor, at the same time, we can validate the time for the access level when they're going to be able to access the doors. So now if we look under the access level, all the doors are assigned the scheduled contractor. And if I look on the contractor schedule, it's Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So now the first card is saved. So now we're going to look for a different card. New user. We're going to select an access level also for the 2 cards that we had swiped before from the batch load operation, and then we're going to save that card. So now if we swipe the card now, we get access granted. Swipe the second card, we are getting access granted. So now the last thing we're going to do is to add another card, but this card we're going to set an expiring date for the following day to it. So now if we swipe the card from the desktop, we get access denied card unknown. So now we're going to go edit card, and then from that we already have the card number. So this one is going to be just a day pass. So now the card type, we're going to select just a visitor. Still it's a visitor. And then from that, for the miscellaneous, on the miscellaneous, we see the card started on the 8th of July, and then we're going to use an end date. So the end date by default is going to be the following day, which is the 9th. and then the card, we can select delete card when expired. At the moment, the card state is valid. So now, and then we're gonna go to access level and then assign an access level to the card. So this card has access 24/7 to all the doors for the day. So now we're gonna save that. So now if you swipe the card now, we got an access granted on door 1, access granted on door 2, access granted on door 3, access granted on all doors. Okay, so now the reason we got the timeout on access granted is because there is a door contact defined for the door. As you can see, there's a door contact defined for the door, but we did not open door 2, 3, and 4. That's why we're getting the timeout on access granted. So the person never went in. So he just swiped the card, but never unlocked, never opened the door. So now, next thing we're going to do, we're going to change the date and time for today. We're going to put it to 23:59:55. So the date is changed. So now the system is going to generate an event around 25 seconds past midnight, just to let you know the card has been expired. So now the system just generated the message at midnight and 25 seconds. At 25 seconds, card expired. So now if I swipe the card on the reader now, I get access denied, card expired. So this was how simple it is to add cards in the system via the user card menu, via the desktop events, and via batch operation. So now the last thing that we need to do is how to get a user list of all the cards in the system. So this is pretty simple. So what we need to do, we need to go on the user card and then click on the printer icon. And then from the cards, we're going to select card, leave it as card number. We could select a specific range if we wanted to. But what we're going to do, we're going to select print selected fields and the access levels, because we want to see what access level is assigned to the cards. And then from that, we can save that into a CSV file. Or we could do a print, or we could preview it. But for the purpose, we're going to save it to a CSV file. This can be used for auditing. So if we save it to the CSV, so now it asks us to give it a name. So we're going to put it on the desktop, and then we're going to call it card list. So now the list is done. So the card has been exported to the desktop. So now if we go to the desktop, we're going to see how many users we have in that report. So if I go to my desktop, so I got my card list. If I open it, so these are all the cards that I have in the system and which access level that is assigned to them. As you can see, the access level that is assigned to the cards, it's that field. It's only show you the name of the access level and also the ID number of each access level. So you see, that's why you have a difference from tests, because that access level is the same for all the users. And also, if you look for the visitor, it's a different access level. It's a different ID number. So visitor, contractor, and always valid. They don't match the one that you have for the test. So if we look in the software, we can validate just to make sure the access level do match for the reference number. So if we select contractor, it's the same thing, 2354. If we select always valid, it's 2236. If we select contractor already did it. If we select visitor, it's 2363. And if we select test, and it's already in there also. As you can see, that's the same tag that we have, the ID number. And this was how simple it is to do this following operation: add a card via the user card menu, from the desktop events, from the batch operation, and how to get a user list in EntraPass.